8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
On a Tuesday, we always put in a little overtime, and look, the gang is all here. Sean Vazan, Chris Hagan, Garland Gillen. I'm Watson K. Completely satisfied, guys. Are you completely satisfied with the way the preseason's gone so far?
Did you see the first drive of the preseason game? Last preseason game? Third preseason game?
Yeah.
They look pretty good, huh?
I thought
that's all I need to see.
That's all you need to see.
Keyword being gone, as in it's almost over.
Yes.
Yeah. And Sheldon Rankins back at practice this week, so you know everything's starting to get good on and off the field.
You're right about that. More on Sheldon in just a second. Let's get you right to the big board. A lot of things to talk about tonight, including what's worth keeping an eye on in the Saints' final preseason game. The start of the college football season is upon us. We'll talk about LSU, and we'll take you uptown where expectations are high for your Tulane Green Wave. But we're going to begin with the Saints because there are still some questions that need answering, like, is Marcus Davenport the answer at right defensive end? We know what to expect from Cam Jordan on the other side, but the jury is still out on Davenport. Guys, are we asking too much too soon from Davenport, or should he be further along by now?
I think he should be a little bit further along by now, but all hope is not lost. This is still his second preseason. He's still got room to grow. But I would have thought by now he would have been a little bit further along. But I still think he's got time to figure this thing out. And he is getting pushed a little bit now by Trey Hendrickson, who has been playing well this preseason and really has shown more growth than Davenport. And look, they gave up a lot for him, so that matters. I just think at some point it's got to click for him. But I don't think it's time to panic just yet with Marcus Davenport.
I would also say that, like, this is kind of, he's kind of a victim of the fact that this team is so deep and good at so many places. Like, we're not really talking about linebacker. We're not talking much about defensive backs. There's a lot of positions that we know are locked down, and his spot's locked down, obviously, but there's so much that we're not talking about that we're harping on Davenport. We're locked in on Davenport because he's, and rightfully so. I mean, it's an important position. He cost the Saints a lot of draft capital to get, but I think I'm going to personally reserve a hardcore judgment, at least for a couple weeks. I think the defense looks a lot different. Who he's being blocked by or how much he's being paid attention to by opposing offenses looks a lot different when Cam Jordan's on the field, too.
Well, we got a special tomorrow night at 10:35 right here on Fox 8 called Block Out the Noise. And that's what he's been talking about this training camp. Yeah. He wants to block out the noise from last year. He said he paid attention to a lot of the outside noise. And this season, he's not focused on that. He's focusing on himself, working in the building. He was pretty philosophical last week. I think Sean was with me when we were interviewing Marcus Davenport. I think he seems like he's finally getting it, but like you said, second time in preseason for him there. I'm still going to give him a little more brevity in this situation.
I understand he has to block out the noise and play better as a first-round pick, but it's a legitimate question. Is Trey Hendrickson, does he have a legit chance of winning this job, Chris?
I honestly hope so, because that means the best man would win the job, and that would mean Trey Hendrickson is indeed playing some tremendous football. And you know, he's a guy they took because of his motor, because you know, they saw some potential in him, and obviously his first 2 years really he's suffered because of injury setbacks. But if he can beat out Davenport for it, you take that L on drafting Davenport and you say we got a good defensive end opposite Cam Jordan. So I think the best bet would maybe be see a little bit of both. Maybe they both develop, or Davenport win it, whatever. But I think if Hendrickson stands a chance to win it, the best man did, and he'd be playing well.
I don't think there's any debate right now who's had the better camp and who at this very present moment is further along. And it's Trey Hendrickson. Does that mean he starts over Marcus Davenport? I don't know if that's necessarily a direct competition. You know, Hendrickson may be a guy that's kind of a Cam Jordan backup, a strong side type guy. But if you look at the two best edge pass rushers right now this camp, it's Cam Jordan and it's Trey Hendrickson. So Hendrickson's going to play a lot, and Dennis Allen can get creative with certain pass rushers in certain situations. Davenport may be a guy that's best as a pass rush specialist, not necessarily a guy that can set the edge in the run game. So there's a lot of different things that can happen. But right now, if you were grading objectively, you'd have to say Hendrickson was ahead.
I wonder, Garland, real quickly, has Sheldon Rankins' return kind of helped ease the pain of not having Davenport where he needs to be right now?
Well, we don't know when Sheldon's going to come back, what week he's come back. What Sean Payton said, it's unrealistic for him to come back.
Expect him before week 6, though.
Yeah, but it's a surprise. I mean, we were blown away at practice on Monday that he was back out there. He seemed surprised that he was back out there. But this is a first-world problem for the Saints. If they got a problem with Trey Hendrickson and Marcus Davenport, both those guys are pushing each other. We all know, as we talked with Sheldon Rankins, injuries happen in the NFL. It's good to have backups. So this is a good problem for the Saints to have if Hendrickson and Davenport are both fighting for that spot.
Your thoughts on Rankins? and when he'll come back? It sounded like to me yesterday he thinks he's going to be back very soon.
It's not going to be week 1. I'm thinking week 4 when they come home from that West Coast trip and they play Sunday night against Dallas. That's just as I read the situation, that's just my opinion there. But in that area, the week 4, 5, and possibly 6 range, clearly they think he's going to be back before week 6, or else they would have, saved the roster spot and put him on PUP. So huge development, great development, and that's a guy that had a great year last year, and that all of a sudden, adds to that pass rush from the interior, a guy you didn't necessarily have with him being out. So I think it's obviously a great day for the Saints.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when he does come back, you just want him to be healthy. You want him to feel good mentally and physically, so he's not just a body on the field or, at risk or not effective. You want him to be as close to, if not better than, the Rankins we saw a year ago.
Another position to keep an eye on, wide receiver, battle for spots number 4, 5, maybe number 6. Garland, is anybody clearly ahead on those other backup wide receiver spots?
Oh no, we still got one game to go here. I don't know if you can really separate between Kirkwood, Carr, Emmanuel Butler right now. I know you can put Traven Durrell, Lil Jordan Humphrey. I know Sean and I have talked about it numerous times. He's not shown up in a lot of these practices this year, but one more game to figure this out. I still like Butler making one of those spots there, but between Carr and Kirkwood, I know Cyril Grayson is out there, so there's definitely, it's going to get interesting. This is going to be a fun preseason game number 4 because these guys are going to get a lot of work Thursday night.
I think, and this is one of those positions where the 4th preseason game will matter. I think Emmanuel Butler is a guy they like based on what they say and what he can do, and the fact that he started in Michael Thomas's place in week 2, obviously, of the preseason, didn't do well in that game, had that one ricochet off his helmet, but bounced back nicely, and he caught passes a big guy should catch. That slant way, he really, gets his hands out there, makes the catch, uses his body. And look, Austin Carr is a guy. Look, he's not for everybody, but clearly he's for Peyton. Peyton likes him, so that's why I think he's got the inside track to making a roster spot as well.
Yeah, I think what it may come down to a little bit is just familiarity and the Saints being familiar with Austin Carr, familiar with Keith Kirkwood from last year. Does that work in their favor, the fact that you kind of know what you're going to get and hope they improve, or does that work against them because we know what we're going to get and we want more, we're not sure if we're going to get more? That, I think, remains to be seen. So it's a position that can be earned, which is pretty rare still on this really deep team.
And we forgot to add Simi Cobbs in that mix too. I forgot to put him in there.
There's a number of guys in that mix, and you look at Deontay Harris, he's going to play some receiver as well, probably sparingly. His main job is as punt returner, kick returner, but it seemed kind of strange to be this late in the preseason. There's still those jobs up for grabs. Is that wrong to think that?
I think, look, given the high volume of players at that particular position, you talk about 5 or 6 guys. I think I can't recall ever there not being some form of battle somewhere down the depth chart when it comes to wide receiver. And it really goes to show a lot of these guys have had their moments in practice. Grayson's had his moments. Cobbs, to me, has been very consistent. So I think it's just a matter of a lot of guys have made enough plays to make you say, okay, maybe he's got a shot.
And you have to think about which guys will be able to clear waivers, too, when it comes to making those final decisions on cuts.
Yeah, and as we always say, there's always the other players on other rosters that when we make these 53-man projections, you just never know what the Saints might see. There's a lot of talented receivers in this league, and I think familiarity counts. I do think receiver might be a position where they'll stick within the roster they have now. Maybe that third running back comes from elsewhere, but it'll be an interesting decision.
On what spot we talking here, Big Dog?
Oh, I was asking about, you've got so many players in this receiving core right now that even if they get cut, they're going to it's gonna be hard to press to see which guys are gonna be able to clear waivers and maybe bring them
and
back.
Coach Payton talked about this. We ran that by today there. They're gonna be getting with other teams final 5 days of
preseason.
Yeah, preseason. The cuts are gonna come Saturday, so they're still working the phones. There might be a deal still to be made.
I agree with that. Coming up, we'll head to campus because it's game week for all of our local college teams. We'll ask some important questions of LSU when overtime continues in a moment. And Saints fans who want to see their team spirit on
Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers. You're watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
Welcome back into overtime. We're finally in game week for our local colleges. The LSU Tigers will kick off the season Saturday night in Death Valley against Georgia Southern. And with great talent comes great expectations. They'll begin the season ranked 6th in the nation. We are all in agreement that LSU has to make 10 wins the norm starting this year. But with what they have back, should 11 wins be their expectation? Chris
Yes. 11 wins should be the expectation. Alabama is your one excusable loss, but I think you even need to make that a close game, because if you make that a close game, and obviously this is getting really ahead of things, but chips fall the right way. LSU can be a top 4 team at the end of the season. If you have one loss and it's a close one to Bama, I think you will be favored by that college football playoff committee, but we'll have to see how things shake out.
Look, keep shooting for the stars, I guess you could say. I think 10 wins is the floor, so there's no reason why you can't, shoot for 11-1, especially after we saw Florida the other night. That was always a team that kind of gives LSU trouble, but I kind of think when you stack those two rosters up and watch them play, now I know it's early, but still I think LSU at home could certainly win that game. Texas is going to be a tough matchup, but I think I like LSU's chances there, and A&M was always a team that you look at and say, well, maybe, but other than Alabama, I mean, name the obvious loss, and I don't see it. So 11-1, that's a fair expectation.
Well, thank goodness we got some football on Saturday. These predictions are wearing me out. I'm sticking with 11 wins. I said it once, I said it twice, I said it 3 times. 11-1. I think they're still going to lose at Alabama, and I feel more confident after watching that Florida game, as Sean just talked about. Felipe Franks, thank goodness he decommitted from LSU and went to Florida. You did not want to have to deal with him in Baton Rouge, man. I just don't buy into what Felipe Franks is selling there. He's not a good quarterback. I think at least LSU gets them here. I would possibly think that might be another loss. It was in the swamp, and it'll be like 1,000 degrees down there. But they're coming to Baton Rouge, so I'm still confident in my 11-1 prediction. I'm not jumping off of that anytime soon. Now, if something bad happens in Austin, we'll see. But right now, I think they're going to win in Austin, too. But they're focused on this week because the triple option is a lethal offense.
Let me ask you this, Garland. In this offense, who is Joe Burrow's favorite target?
Oh, there's no doubt. Justin Jefferson, man. Every day, all day. He loves Justin Jefferson. Even in last offseason, before the season started in the summertime, he was doing 7-on-7. He was working out with him. He's his go-to guy. But in this offense, it's all about spreading the wealth, and that's when you're going to see more Terrace Marshall, Jamar Chase. You might see some Thaddeus Moss. Finally, he's healthy. I can't wait to see this guy play on Saturday. He's been hurt nonstop. I was shocked that he was the #1 starter. I thought it'd be Stephon Sullivan. So they're going to be spreading the wealth all over the place. You might see a little Trey Palmer. You might see a little Devontae Lee. It's going to be a fun Saturday.
You got them all there, Garland?
You got them all? I'm going to the roster.
You said his name, Jamar Chase. He'll be the star receiver by the time this season is over. #1.
Chris, what are the chances a true freshman will be the team's top running back?
That's
midway through.
Midway through, I would say something would have to happen to Clyde Edwards-Helaire for that to be the case. It just depends on the situation. I mean, Clyde's the starter. Obviously, you've got versatility with a lot of your backs. I think John Emery is a guy they like. Ogeron mentioned he wants to see him a little stronger in the weight room and, just improve in some areas. I think running back, especially when you're, going out of a lot of single back sets and spreading the ball around, I think pass protection becomes a vital role, and I think that's where experience will give Clyde the advantage in more snaps. But you never know. I mean, there's a lot of different guys that can get the ball in this roster. It just depends on the game plan and whether you want to go to the air with your running backs or if they're running a little bit more.
Sean, I'm going to give you the last question to LSU real quickly. Do they have to depend less on their defense this year?
I guess, but if I'm LSU's defense, I wouldn't adopt that mentality. They need us less. I mean, they got some studs on that defense, and play like studs, be dominant, have an offense that's dominant as well, hopefully this season, and let's just see where they stack up at the end.
And create turnovers.
Yes, do that. All right, be sure to join us Wednesday night for a special preview of the Tigers. It's called Block Out the Noise, and it'll take a more in-depth look at the two Joes, Burrow and Brady, and the importance of winning in the trenches will be discussed as well. Block Out the Noise comes your way Wednesday night at 10:35 on Fox 8. And remember to check out episode 54 of the Fox 8 Overtime podcast. Senor Hagan goes one-on-one with Jacques Doucet, who covers the Tigers at WAFB in Baton Rouge. That's a TV station up there. Join that tomorrow night, 10:35. All right, straight ahead on Fox 8 Overtime, we size up the Tulane Green Wave. Are they as good as they appear to be? We'll discuss next.
Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
Back here on Overtime, it's time to talk about your Tulane Green Wave because there appears to be an expectation uptown. Thursday night, the Greenies will kick off their season against Florida International, but more importantly, Tulane will begin its quest for not only their second straight bowl appearance, but the outright American Conference Championship. Should someone be telling Tulane to pump the brakes on their expectations or go for it, Garland?
Well, this is going to be a weird situation for Tulane. They're used to the haters coming out from everywhere, saying they're going to be garbage, they ain't going to make a bowl game. This year...
What you going to tell them?
This year, they should win like 7 or 8 games. This is like uncharted territory for them. Like, people are telling them they're good. Tulane's used to they're like, you got hate, bring it. You got hate, everybody over there, Wonka K, bring your hate over here. Everybody got hate on them, and now they're finally expected to win. So this is going to be interesting on Thursday night because FIU's got a good team. Butch Davis used to coach in the NFL, coached at some big-time programs. Yeah, he's a good coach, good team. This is a 2-point spread for Tulane. They're expected to win this game, at least in the gamblers' minds and the fans' minds. They should win this game. So they got a lot. They got actual pressure on them. In the past, they'd had pressure on them because they don't expect them to win.
Breakthrough. This is a breakthrough season. Right. Get to that level you want to be as a program. Back-to-back bowl games, winning 7 or 8 games. Embrace the expectations. Brakes? Pump the brakes? No. Embrace it 100%.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think they've got a really good opportunity here with a lot of veterans on this roster, guys that have bought into the culture. There's reason to be excited uptown. And look, the thing with college football in general for every team, with no matter what your aspirations are, just avoid that banana peel, right? Like, avoid losing the games you shouldn't lose. Exactly. If you can win your base 6, 7, 8, in LSU's case, win your 10, and then steal a couple, you're doing a good job.
Yeah. Justin McMillan is the key to everything Tulane can do. He came in uptown with no expectations last year, went 5-1 as a starter. Are you guys curious as to how well he can handle the pressure since it's on him, Sean?
Very much. He could do no wrong when he came in last year. If he came in last year and was just average, that would have been fine. No pressure on him. But now he kind of reset the bar for himself. Absolutely. You got to up your game, and I just think he needs to be the steady quarterback, make quality decisions, game managing type that he was last year, and Tulane will be fine. They have enough skill and depth in other places, something we haven't said a lot of in Tulane over the last decade. So just be the quality, steady, game managing player that he is, and I think he'll be fine.
About 30 seconds for this question real quickly. We're about to run out of time. Chris, has football become relevant amongst Tulane fans and students again?
Yes, when there are expectations, I think it's definitely relevant, and I think there's a reason to be excited. Meaning, get to the stadium, not just the opening night, but every week get there, and you can make it a fun atmosphere.
I drove by the booth the other night on my way home. The bar was packed, so that means the students are back in school, so they better be there on Thursday night. Everybody loves a winner. And right now, the basketball team is not good. The baseball team is not good. The football team is good. Students, drop the beers at the boot. Go over to Ullman Stadium on Thursday night.
You drove by the boot, huh? You didn't go in?
I didn't go in. I was going home. Too old. I was right by there. I was right by Tulane.
That's not how old you are. That's how old you feel, right?
All right, Juan.
All right, coming up, we go around the room, giving everybody a chance to have their final say next.
Watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
We've hit the home stretch here on Overtime, and that means time for everyone's favorite part of the show, our final say. And of course, Sean Bazan leads us off.
That lead off. All right. After the shock of Saturday's stunning leak that Andrew Luck was retiring from the game, my thoughts immediately went to Drew Brees and the appreciation not only for his play, but for his sheer durability and longevity. It's not normal, and it really is something we should marvel more at. Think about it. Andrew Luck's career is over. Andrew Luck, the next generational talent, out of the game before 30. All because of injuries and the fatigue that comes along with 4 years of battling injuries, rehab, re-injury, and more rehab, then trying to play. Luck, in his 7-year career, missed 26 games due to injury. During Brees' 19-year career, he's missed 1. Listen to that again. 19 years of tackle football, 1 missed game due to injury, and do not worry, I am knocking on all the wood I can find right now. Brees has mastered the most basic trait of football, a trait that truly matters more than we give it credit for. At the end of the day, Brees has always been available.
Also relating to Andrew Luck, he's the latest player to prioritize his own health and happiness, but I don't think he will be the last. Luck's faced a number of injuries throughout his career, some season-ending, some just nagging and painful throughout the season, neither of which made the game fun. While the game of football to fans is fun or an escape from real life for a few hours, for players it's work and it's pain. If the script were flipped, and it was the everyday working man or woman, and you'd earned more than enough money to retire early, could you really say that you wouldn't take the opportunity if your heart wasn't in the job anymore? Bottom line, like the old heads and the old school players like Juan say, the game doesn't love you back. More players are speaking out about it, shrugging off the outside pressure from fans, teammates, or even family to keep playing and focusing on themselves and their own health. And I, for one, don't blame them one bit.
In the last 4 years, Andrew Luck dealt with a lacerated kidney, torn cartilage, a concussion, and a labrum strain. That's a lot of missed games for some brutal injuries. So it's not a total shock he would hang it up. Dude was dealing with a lot of problems. The only issue I had since the announcements is pundits giving their 2 cents on the issue, trashing Luck. We don't know half the stuff Luck is dealing with. We don't live in his world. Let him be. You're not an expert on someone else's life. Like football coach Herm Edwards said on social media, don't hit send. These pundits can't be the experts on everything. Stay out of this one.
My final say comes out of obligation to my daughter and to every parent that has a daughter. Our job is to support our girls in everything they do and everything they want to do within reason. Is my child's desire to play football within reason? Well, it is flag football, and that helped me breathe a sigh of relief. Is Carly Lloyd's desire to kick in the NFL within reason? Ask her parents, and I bet they'd say, if you want it, go for it. They'd say this despite what's going through the back of their minds, like football's such a violent sport. What if she gets hurt? Which could happen if she has to make a tackle. Skill-wise, the 2-time World Cup winner has enough leg to do the job. She kicked the 55-yarder last week when she visited the Eagles camp. We know she has the competitive fire, and it's safe to assume that she also loves a challenge. And this would be the ultimate challenge. A woman trying to break into a man's game is what the men might say. To themselves, of course, out loud, they'll say, sure, why not? That's called political correctness. I say if she's good enough and brave enough and the team thinks she's both, then go ahead. She might become the first to succeed. And if any little girl is watching, including my own, my chances are she probably won't be the last one. That's our show for tonight. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great night.
This has been Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.